Okay, then we will move to item J, report and possible action on employee insurance request for proposal results.
I have Bill Hines here from Associated Bank. Bill and Al Yeager have met with us as a committee for the last 2 or 3 meetings. At least Bill has been a part of. We've worked with Bill in the past few years. Al was not able to attend. Where's he up in?
He's on the other side of the state. Yep. The East Coast.
East Coast, that's right. Bill's from the area, and he will help us work through the different requests for proposals that have come back after we went out to bid our insurances. And we've looked at all of our insurances, our health, dental, long-term disability, short-term disability, long-term care, and any life insurances. So with that, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Bill and then jump in when we get to a summary at some point in time here.
Okay. Well, like Greg said, my associate Al Yeager has been working with the school district for several years. I've been on and off for the last couple of years as well, but certainly over the last 2 years, the committee was formed by the school district to investigate the possibilities and options of health insurance and other benefits and see how that they can maximize the amount of dollars that are being spent. And the main focus was to figure out both short-term as well as long-term effects of that, not only on the benefits, but on the disability insurance, the retiree benefits, dental, and all benefits in general. The short-term goals, obviously, we're looking at where you are currently at and looking at your claims ratio. It's been very high for norms, so therefore the insurance companies are going to be taking higher increases than normal because high claims equals higher premiums. So that's just a direct reflection on that point. So as a result, the renewals are going to tend to be a little bit higher. And obviously, as the budgets that you're looking at tonight, there's no additional money in it, so the guideline was to try to come up with somewhere around a zero growth or maybe to save some money going forward. So we did put out a formal RFP to all the carriers that would make sense to handle this particular project. We went out to 5 carriers. Obviously, WEA was the incumbent carrier, so we gave them a chance to quote as well as quote the options that we were looking at. The Wisconsin Counties Association, WPS is another insurance company, and then the 2 local Gunderson Health Plan and La Crosse, as well as Health Tradition, which is the Mayo System Insurance Company. So initially, we asked for 3 plan designs from all of the carriers, one to be a status quo so that there would be, we knew what they were going to be on a competitive basis for plan, equal for equal, as close as possible. And then we looked at a couple of other high and higher deductible options along with different funding arrangements to see what would make the most sense. Well, first of all, when we did get the actual renewal of the current plan, it came through with an 11% increase from WA. We did make some pharmacy changes, which dropped it down to about a 9% increase. But when we looked at the competition on the plan for plan status quo plan, we ended up basically with a 3 to 4, with all of the carriers being within a 3 to 4% margin. So, in other words, the current plan design was not going to be generating any savings for the school district, so we had to start looking at some options. So, the first choice after that was to go to a higher deductible plan, and we looked at a $1,000 deductible for a single person and $2,000 for a family, and then with 100% co-insurance after that, so that the maximum out of pocket again would be $1,000 for every employee that was enrolled in a single and $2,000 in the family. We did narrow it down through just plain simple math that the best 2 choices with the biggest savings were Gunderson Lutheran Health Plan in La Crosse, as well as Health Tradition, again, the Mayo System representative. So those 2 plans did represent the biggest savings, and if we could offer both of them side by side, then the employees do have choice at the time that they enroll in the plan each year. So they can choose, I'm going to go to Mayo or I'm going to go to Gunderson for my providers, as well as many of the other local providers like Mile Bluff and Mauston Crone Clinic in Black River Falls, Scenic Bluff back towards La Crosse. They're all part of both networks either way, so that doesn't really limit the people too much. We're able to negotiate with Gunderson as well as the Health Tradition to offer both plans side by side so that the plans employees, again, have a choice of plans and being able to make the most of their dollars spent, and that represented a pretty substantial decrease in premium costs, which what Greg has been alluding to all evening. So the committee does recommend to the board that you approve the $1,000, $2,000 deductible plan, 100% coinsurance, and offered side by side with equal plans, equal plan designs, and they are equal premiums as well. So that was the first recommendation. And the second recommendation is obviously we looked at funding the $1,000 because that does represent a fairly substantial increase in their out-of-pocket expense as well. Well, with the savings that was generated by changing to that size of a deductible, there is enough money left over that we can fully fund the $1,000 deductible for the single as well as the $2,000 amount for the family. So again, the committee recommendation was to fund the health reimbursement accounts, which is the funding, and I'll explain that in just a second, but to fund that back to the employee in full. It does become their money. They do get to keep it, which gives them a consumerism thought about how do you spend your money going forward. If I can keep the money, that means it's mine. If I don't spend it, that's even more important, not only for the school district as controlling claims going forward, but it keeps the employee whole as well as being able to be rewarded for their good utilization of claims. There's no point when you have a deductible that goes down as low as your prior one, you're paying it out in premiums, so the money's gone either way. But if you actually save the money in that health reimbursement arrangement and the employee gets to keep it, you don't have to fund it down to zero, plus there's an incentive not to spend it. On the other hand, if you do spend it, the money's there and you're not any worse off as an employee. So that's the thought behind it, and frankly, it works quite well. Now, the health reimbursement arrangement is a third part to the insurance. You've got your insurance and you've got your provider and the deductible. Now, how do you fund the deductible? There would be a third-party administrator set in the middle of it, which would set up these trust funds. I'm assuming this is the way we're going to go, so I can talk names?
Yeah.
Okay. NIS, which is National Insurance Services, is well known throughout the school community of handling HRAs in the retirement category, but they also do a great job in the health insurance category as far as funding these types of deductibles. They are the least expensive, and they also pay interest on the money that's in these funds for the employees. So the employee can more than offset, in most cases, their actual costs. So there is a $20 cost for a fund per year, and there is a small reimbursement fund, but that's all capped in the worst case scenario at $50. And when it pays 2.75% interest, they're going to make more in interest than they will on the claims, the cost of reimbursements and claims costs, fund costs is what I'm trying to say. So with that in mind, again, the recommendation would be to fully fund it. So once we had set up and decided which of the carriers were going to be the likely chosen, then the next step is to make sure that everything is equal, or if it's not equal, we understand what the differences are, and then go forward as far as making some wide-eyed decisions on the process itself. So we did have 63 questions that we sent out to all the carriers, which explained all of the processes as far as payment of claims and how do you handle this, this, and this, 63 different ways basically, and those were reported back to the committee on a side-by-side basis, and as well as the carriers were interviewed by a select committee to make sure that all of the commitments were in fact official and committed to, I guess. So those were all handled. The Q&A you do have as part of your packet there if you do want to refer to it. And
I'm looking for that. I'm not sure they do have the Q&A.
Okay.
So, but I will find
John's got it from the committee, so I'm kind of looking at his.
I will be sending out a packet regardless to all staff once we're tomorrow morning so that they get an idea what we're looking at here.
Just to show you, it's obviously we got WA's comments. The question, WA's, I'm sorry, in this particular one, we narrowed it down to the two carriers, Gunderson and Health Tradition, side by side, and how things are claimed, how claims are paid. And all things are relatively equal. Nothing is exactly the same in any particular group, but they are very similar, and the committee was advised of those differences as well. So I think there's a pretty good understanding of what they're buying, so to speak. It was further suggested with this particular change that there be some aggressive wellness and disease management moving forward. So it was also recommended that by the committee that you approve that the carriers agreed, which they did, agreed to do some on-site biometric exams so that you can get the overall health risk assessments of the employees. And as a part of that, the $1,000 and $2,000, if you do not participate in that health risk assessment, then there's going to be $100 withheld in a single reimbursement and $200 in a family. So all you have to do is go and take the test. And it was done last year, and it was just on a voluntary basis. Over 50% of the employees actually participated. So if there's a $100 or $200 incentive, they're certainly going to do that, which again is good for the employee because they'll begin to understand their own particular conditions if they exist, as well as being able to mark their own progress going forward. And it's kind of a good educational tool for wellness groups to target what kind of education you want to have for the employees moving forward. And it's the baseline to get that part started.
It's interesting, when we talk about the committee was made up with teachers, administrator, central office, and board members and support staff members on that. And initially when we were talking about the biometric testing, we did offer it through our wellness program this year, and it was on a voluntary basis, and we had 150 staff members and their spouses participate in that. So we were very excited with those results, and if staff haven't seen it yet, we'll be sharing the aggregate data, and that's what it is. It's aggregate data. It's not individual data. We're not making decisions about our health care based on individuals. We're based on the aggregate data and what we can do to...
For the record, it's illegal. It's just so that individual information is illegal. So we want to make sure that everyone knows it's that aggregate, and all that they get is a summary of everything. So no one individual particular health conditions will ever be known by any individual in the school district. It just doesn't work that way. So,
there was some discussion on whether we wanted to keep it voluntary or if we wanted to make it mandatory this first year. And I think at the end that the committee that made up that group was unanimous that we wanted it to be a mandatory part of the deductible. Now, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it, but then you're going to pay for not doing the biometric testing. That $100 for a single and $200 for the family, and that does include the spouse, not children.
Yeah, not children.
So with that kind of the health plan portion of it, there's more to go. But are there any questions on the health plan or what we're recommending by the committee? Any questions?
The only thing I would add is we'll talk about it again in a little bit, and we're going to spend a little time talking about this tonight because it is a big issue, but we achieved some significant savings, but we've really changed direction on the health care plan. We were in a point of service, and the value of a point of service is choice. The choice is no longer an option. We'll have choice to whether we want to go to Gunderson or to Health Traditions, which is the Mayo SCEM system. But once you're in an HMO, that's where you're going. Okay, so the change in the plan and the cost of the plan and the savings really come from that ability to have choice, whether you're doctoring in-network or out-of-network. And there really are not a lot of options for out-of-network doctoring unless it's urgent or emergency care.
Correct.
I do want to make sure you, and I know you'll cover that, Greg, but you do get to choose annually at this point,
yes.
Which service you want.
Every year at as well. Every individual employee has the right to go from the Gunderson system to the Mayo system. Each and every year they can flip back and forth. You're in it only for the 1 year. And if you do live outside of the area for retirees, there are some outside of the area networks that will be made available for those people that, again, do not live in the service area of Gunderson or Health Tradition. So, no other questions? Okay. Some of the did you have, Jerry?
You can mention.
Okay. Well, moving on to the other ancillary benefits, the dental, the long-term disability, and those kinds of things. We did compare the current WA programs, plural, that are offered to the school district along with the Delta Dental, which looking at network changes and so on. In the dental world, there's not a lot of money to be made in plan change designs. They're not significant numbers because it's a much smaller benefit cost-wise. But we did look at all of the network comparisons as well as pricing, and we did come up with a matching current plan design initially, and Delta did prove, and just going plan for plan, between a 3 or to a 7% change. And the difference being there are two plans in the district right now of different benefit levels. So on the lower benefit level, it was a 3% saving. On the higher benefit, it was 7% savings. So the recommendation of the committee was to replace both of the WA plans, and we just consolidate it into one plan that's equal for all employees regardless of position. And with as a result, we did do that with also adding in a new benefit into dental, which is the coverage for extraction or replacement of natural teeth, which has to do with implants and that type of thing. It is a benefit that WEA does have in their health insurance, but it is a benefit that's not normally covered in other health insurances, so it's not a benefit unique. It's a unique benefit to WA. It is not offered in any other type of plan. So we did add it into the dental, which is a much lower cost way to enter it, and as a result, we did make some recommendations on pricing, and again, changing from one plan totally for everybody to take one plan, and that was about an additional $25,000 increase to the district by adding in the extraction plus offering the dental plan to some of the groups that did not have it in the past. So a little higher, but again, keeping everybody equal on that extraction benefit. The long-term disability premium, when we looked at the coverage that WA is offering, it appears that there's only two companies out there that will match what the employees have currently, and that's NIS, again, National Insurance Services, and EPIC, which is a division of WPS in the marketplace. They're the only two carriers that are out there that were willing to match the 90% coverage, payment coverage of the disability benefit, which is what the employees have currently. We did look also at a two-thirds benefit, 66% replacement, and a 60% replacement. But when we looked at the numbers, just on the results, the recommendation is to convert both the long-term disability and the short-term disability to NIS. It is option 2, if we've got that up there someplace, but it equates to an equal match for a 32% savings, or about $13,000 per year in premium compared to what was being paid to WA currently. We disregarded the 60% and the 66% benefit just because they're not a match, and it is something that may be considered in future years, but for currently there was really no need to jump and change all the benefits at one time. The short-term disability, just to clarify, it is a voluntary benefit, which means the school district doesn't pay for any of it. It is elected by the individual employees, and when you have long-term disability, you should have short-term and long-term in the same category, and there was no pricing detriment to the employee, so we're recommending that that be the change. Long-term care, the committee did discuss that, and it was decided to eliminate the long-term care coverage effective September 1st. Greg can talk to you about the savings of it, and the attorney's portion, it was all, I'll let you address that, Greg, if you want.
Well, it just, obviously it's one of these insurances that was negotiated within the last 3 or 4 years, and unfortunately, it's not just, I don't think, the committee's recommendation. To say it's the committee's recommendation would be probably the 60%, no, 50% of the story. The other 50% of it is when we're looking at our budget, trying to make things work for next year, it became apparent that we have to make choices, and long-term care was one of the choices to eliminate. So, in fairness to that committee, I think regardless of what the committee's recommendation would have been with the long-term care, the cost of the long-term care program is considerable, and I think Cindy and myself would have had recommended eliminating it, and if we hadn't, I'm certain the board would have asked us to reconsider that in itself. So I think overall, 50% is, I think the committee came to the conclusion that it's probably going to go. And then I think also that knowing it made the committee's decision easier, knowing that there really was not a whole lot of decision making in this. So I don't want to, wrap that up as a committee decision when I don't think they were really given a lot of options to start with.
And, as far as the recommendations of the committee, otherwise, though, they, again, pretty much what I mentioned, but I also just as an outsider's perspective, I'd just like to add that, working with this committee has been very, actually enjoyable, believe it or not. The people have been very open-minded and eager, and certainly have worked very hard at understanding the process, learning about it, and being agreeable and making the recommendations that's good for the school district. So that's a nice change, and I work with a lot of school districts, as does my associate Al Yeager, who works with even more, and I believe Al would also echo the same comments. So for that part, I thank you all.
Yeah, sorry, Bo, but the other thing I'd like to throw in long-term care is that we did talk to our school attorney to make sure that we were okay to eliminate that. Currently, you have some people that are continuing it or have the long-term care and have paid into that. They can continue with it, and that's why we're able to eliminate it, because they can make the choice to continue with it. But again, for me to say that probably many of them will be able to continue would not be a fair statement either. It's going to be pretty cost prohibitive for anybody to continue on the long-term care. So it wasn't, these decisions were not made lightly. There were, we thought about them, but given, what we thought we were tasked with, and you can say this with all the insurers, there's not a lot of options when you got to cut a potential 15% increase to your health insurance, which equates to $722,000. There just isn't a lot. And I think the committee recognized the budget limitations set in front of us, and we also realized that we would like to be compensated on our salary, or they would like to be compensated on their salary to some degree going forward too, and there's a give and take here. And I think that's, in a sense, what really made this process bearable. These are high-stake items for people. It's something where you will have people who this will cost them a lot more than it will cost other people.
So the long-term care is one of the large ticket items in the...
About $240,000.
How much?
$240,000.
So about $250,000, and that's about equal to the amount that we're now showing as our readjustment amounts.
That's going starting July 1st going forward. It has nothing to do with the current year.
So that's a high-level overview of what the committee has done over especially the last year. But again, I'm open for any questions or thoughts, concerns that you have that I can respond to. You want to talk about the savings, right?
Yep, if I could.
So is the plan then to allow the individual employee to select either the Health Traditions plan or the Gunderson plan? Those would be the two options for them. They're going to be priced out equally?
Yes, they're exact same pricing and exactly right. They can choose which plan they would like for their personal preference.
So it's within that choice that, because you had made a statement that, for instance, the Crohn Clinic in Black River Falls accepts the insurance. They accept
either one.
They accept the Health Traditions plan?
Yeah. So that's why I said like Scenic Bluff, Mile Bluff, Crohn Clinic, they take Gunderson or Health Tradition, so doesn't matter. But when you get back towards La Crosse or the clinics that have, a Gunderson logo or a Mayo logo in front, then that's where it makes the difference. But most of them that don't have the so-called logo do accept both insurance companies.
Tomah does.
So as far as the dental, what company? Delta?
The recommendation is to go to Delta Dental,
Okay.
which is the largest dental insurance
Right.
company in the United States.
Thank you.
And just for the sake of question, while Greg is handing it out, there's about 3 or 4 times more providers in the network for Delta than there is currently with WEA.
Was either Gunderson
Thank you.
or Health Traditions willing to match the current WEA benefit for pharmacy, that's a substantial change. That when the pharmacy benefit in WEA reads, when a name brand is dispensed in lieu of a generic equivalent, that the enrollee pays a Tier 3 benefit in that situation. That's what WEA's current plan is. Both the Health Traditions and the Gunderson plan that I saw explained say that the enrollee will pay the difference between what the generic and what the name brand costs. That can be hundreds of dollars.
The difference is the copay difference from 0 to 15.
No, that's what WEA says when it says Tier 3. When it says the difference, what that insurer is saying is you'll pay the numeric difference between...
But you're talking about WA's process.
WEA
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, yes.
Yes, WEA has just, you would pay the Tier 3 amount.
Correct, that's a lot of money, right?
It would be in the Gunderson and Skemp plan, it's a lot of money. In the WEA plan, it was just Tier 3, so you would pay the higher copay. With the way that this reads, it's saying that the customer or the enrollee will pay the numerical difference. So if the generic is a $10 drug and the name brand is a $100 drug, the difference being $90 would be picked up from the consumer in this case.
That's not the way it is. I don't know what you saw or, you know, that...
Can we bring this...
We'll call and confirm it. We'll bring it back next.
And you're seeing that on that spreadsheet?
Okay. I'm just not here the next time. That's the only reason I want to...
Well,
Well, you can, I'm not saying, I don't know if we'll have the answer, we'll have to probably call.
I just thought the answer was stated kind of right here, isn't it? Under pharmacy benefit, Tier 2 drugs.
What one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the handout that was on my...
It's pretty substantial.
Well, it can be, that's why I wanted to clarify.
It's very substantial.
The one we had.
This isn't the one I'm just rebooting because it shut down.
This is, you're looking at WA, we'll want to compare that to what the new one is, and you'll have to, I don't know if you have that recommendation. Here's option 1.
Well, Jerry's wondering if Gunderson or Health Traditions, we're not willing to match WEA's.
Well, the benefit, the one that you have in our handout, option 1, the templates here, the Adobe, if we open that, as soon as I get back online, I'll open it. Or if we can
I got mine open.
If we go down to pharmacy, under this one here, the comparison chart. Yeah, this is the one, thank you. Thanks, Sean. So under pharmacy benefit, and Greg, the one I was looking at was this one. It refers significantly to that, and it's just a matter of if what you're saying is true, that they're going to match it, then I think that's not a big deal. But if we're saying that, because quite honestly, this is something that the insurance companies fight with us all the time on, but a name brand drug in some circumstances is the more appropriate drug to use. And when that's the case, if it's just a Tier 3 change, then it's not a big deal. But if we're saying they have to pay 100%,
Net 100%, maybe $300 or $400 a month.
it can be. It was pharmacy, and it is on page 6. Yeah, there it is.
Which one
Page number 6, and what it says is, if a brand name drug is dispensed when a generic drug is available, the members pay the difference between the generic drug co-payment plus the difference between the name drug and the generic drug. So that can be...
yeah, I see where it's saying that, but, and again, we'll confirm it, but that is not...
Okay, and that's just something that...
Yeah, no, I think
They do have a step program available, but that is not something that has been discussed in any of the meetings. It's either the brand name, the generic, or the brand name, or the third level. The only other difference is that they do have the specialty drug, which is a 20% co-insurance for high-end specialty drugs. But we'll clarify this for you.
I have it in mind, I just had to read it.
And I don't know that that's any different even with WA. If you're recommended a brand name and WA isn't going to pay it, they might be a little bit more, I don't want to say the...
Then it comes, then they chart, then that is $30 right now.
$30.
$30 copay.
To stay
right
with
now.
the
name brand.
Yeah.
If there is a medical reason for that to have been prescribed.
Right.
Regardless of the cost differential, it's just
Regardless of the
$30.
cost, it's $30.
Up
Very aware
up
of
to
it.
$30?
What?
Up to,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
be more or less.
the one I'm aware of is 30.
On the,
Otherwise, it's 400 something.
Yeah. Camila?
Well, and here's the deal. And I understand there's going to be changes and it isn't going to get cheaper. It can't. Let me go through this sheet first, and then we can come back to that. They're good questions, and I don't want to not ask any questions. So we'll ask whatever questions we need to ask to get the answers that we need to answer questions. But I'm going to tell you through this process, when it's all said and done, somebody's not going to be happy. That's just the way it is. I can tell you there's people in that committee that probably aren't liking this.
I 100% agree, and my challenge question to that is not to challenge the committee or those that are working on it. It's to challenge the insurer who may be giving you an answer that you're not knowing what to ask.
Oh, yeah, and that's I'm fine with. But I want to make sure that you're going to have 500 questions like this on why it is or it isn't. Or there'll be 1,000 questions people are going to ask. And because I asked Al and Bill was on the phone at the same time, and one of the questions is okay, for the most part, we think we're getting like for like coverage, all right? For the most part. But in the end, they're different insurances. And that's just the way it is. One's an HMO, one's a point of service. WA will pay some claims one way, where probably Health Traditions and Gunderson Lutheran may not pay those claims that way, or vice versa. It might be. There will be, again, some wins and loses with this. But, you know, if we're looking for this to be right for everybody, it isn't going to be right for everybody. And that changed, okay? And we don't have any control of that. And I know that's not what you're asking me now,
Right,
Jerry.
right.
I understand that. But I think that's kind of what we have to address, too, in so many words, is the reality of the change. And if we're not comfortable with this and the impact it's going to have on different people, then we need to be looking at another direction.
I think it's exciting to have choice between the Mayo plan and the Gunderson plan. I just want to make sure that the questions that we pose to them, if we have knowledge of a potential pitfall, we make sure to ask them and make them stated up front before we sign up.
and I'll verify that
And
for
I
you.
also want to make certain that our employees who have taken some real substantial economic hits since January of a year ago,
Yep.
with paying significantly greater portions of their retirement and with everything else. I mean, we're talking thousands. And I don't want to see those same employees also taking home next year a very minor salary increase, because we know where our budgets are at, and then also see them paying $400 or $500 out of their pocket for a drug that they have to have. Because then we're putting some of our employees into some very, very low wage positions.
And I just want to be...
And I don't want that to happen.
And I want to be honest with you, that's exactly what's going to happen. And for me to tell you...
Understanding that it has to happen is fine. We want to make sure we do
I just
everything we
want
can to mitigate
Right.
as much
Yeah.
as we
Mary
can.
Ellen made a statement, and I want to make sure that she understands
And I
that
do
some of that's
understand
going to
it, but I
happen.
also think it's critically important that everyone understands this affects our employees big time. And for many of our employees who are driving their bus to pay their health insurance, or who are teachers who are living from month to month, losing another, I'll use the drug issue, $400, $300 a month is a big, big, big deal. It's not a little deal. It's a big deal.
Huge.
And that may be something that we look at the HRA account to say, can we expand HRA coverage to cover that? That type of, there's other things that can be done.
Well, I think
That-
we need
their
to
answer is
finish
yes.
what we got.
Let me just clarify this benefit, though. We'll verify what is correct or not, but this benefit, even if it's as worded, means if I go into the pharmacy and I want to use Lipitor and Zocor is the generic equivalent of that, I would be, if this is true, I would be forced to choose Zocor, and they are equivalent. If I decide I want to use Lipitor, then yes, I would pay that $60, $80 difference, whatever it might be, unless I cannot take Zocor, because sometimes the inert ingredients do cause some kind of a reaction, or they offset the good side of that. Then it's a matter of going back and it gets to be prior authorized, and it now becomes a drug that you can use. So there's no real penalty unless you personally just decide on your own to go ahead and use that drug.
That's great if that's their answer, and I
If
think we can
that's their
accept that,
answer,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I know that's their answer on that. They have different pharmacy plans.
That's not how they
that
have it worded, and I know
I agree with you
they'll
there.
point to this if they disagree with us, and they'll
I'll verify that. So.
But everything else that Mary Ellen's concerned about still is true.
Okay.
And I don't want anybody to think that we don't know that, or that
Right.
we're not aware of those type of situations out there. The committee is well aware of that. There were individuals on the committee that could potentially be the hardest hit. Okay, and I'm not going to speak for them. If they feel they need to, they have that opportunity. But having said all that, this is kind of where we came to. It's not perfect. It's not what we had. And everybody on that committee realizes that completely. So what we got here, and I'll just go over the dollars real quickly. Monthly premium right now is $463,083. Total annual premium is about $5.5 million. Our new annual premium with the Health Traditions or the Gunderson Lutheran plans with a $2,000 deductible would be about $374,544. This first payment needs to be made in June. So when I answered that question earlier,
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a savings between the two here, and that's maybe what you were alluding at.
Okay.
And then also the long-term care is not a savings because the life of that goes through September 1st, I think it is, when we initially signed it. So you can see initially, over far enough here. Initially, the annual savings just on premium costs is about $1 million. Now, if we take a look at that $1 million, and you know what, I don't have the one I want to look at on here. For some reason, I have to bear with me.
There's a copy of it.
I gotta find it now. There it is. That's one I want. It's right here. I found it real quick too. That's pretty good. Make it a little smaller. Was about $1,062,000, as you can see here. But each employee is or will be, because their support staff are under contract for one more year. Our teachers agreed to this when we redid our contract a year ago, and our administration and central office just got to do it. We all started contributing 12.6% towards our health insurance. So of that savings, you got to take that times 12.6%, and this is what the employees will save on their own because they don't have to contribute that anymore. So then our health insurance savings is at about $928,604. To make the dental work, because our medical has extraction in it at this point in time, we're putting that in our dental plan right now, and this is one area that you want to be paying attention to it if you're concerned, is that under our medical plans, we all had dental teeth extraction and replacement in there. Now, in order to get that, we have to make that part of our dental plan, which is increasing that. And currently, right now, our support staff have no access to dental insurance. Our teachers get a single plan at 50%, and I don't even think you guys could opt for a family plan, can you, if you want to?
It's a single plan.
Single plan. And administration has had a family plan at 66.5% as well as central office. But because it's not in the medical plan, it's not, we had to put that in our dental plan also. But keep in mind, if we're only offering a single plan to teachers and no plan to support staff, they don't have extraction replacement. And that's why we tasked, I guess, Bill and Hale to come back with a plan where we could at least get that for those, number one, the teachers who are under the single dental plan, but then also, it's my understanding, Bill, they will have the option to get a family plan if they want to, that will cover that. And also coming back with, and that's why you're seeing an increase here, is for support staff that currently have health insurance with us, that we would offer them a single plan at the same rate that we're paying for the teachers. That makes sense the way I just said that? And then they would have the option to jump on a family. But this is one area, you talk about thousands of dollars as an extraction replacement of teeth. If you don't have that in there, you can generate $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 very quickly. So, you know, it's not just on the drug card where there's major changes taking places or people have concerns. It's in other areas here. Long-term disability, and looking at that, right, there's that $13,000 savings. That will help offset some of this. And then again, life insurance and the long-term care. So your total savings then equates to about $1.5 million. But we are funding that HRA right now at 100%. And I'm being optimistic and assuming everybody's going to take advantage and get all that money brought back to them, and we'll do the biometric testing. So we'll fund that in accounts. Half of it in July 1st, the other half semester time, and if there's problems in between where somebody goes over, we'll fund the rest of it. But we'll have money set aside in the budget for the deductibles at this point in time. And then, so you finally end up with your annual savings once you take those deductible dollars off, about $631,926. And I'm not saying, and please don't think that I'm proud of the work I do, obviously. I take a great deal of pride in what I do. It's not much fun, though, standing up here and doing this, but this is what I get paid to do, so I do the best I can with it. And we come back, and I have another handout somewhere in this place. And I don't know exactly where it is right now, but that's all right. They talked about a $900,000 deficit around January 16th. That included an estimated 15% increase on health insurance costs, that if we would have continued on the same trend, would have been about 11% increase, or about a $600,000 increase. It talked about increase to the retirement system. It built in a 1% increase in salary. It included possible increases in the long-term care. So the deck that we were dealt is not a very good hand. And if you want to change the hand, you got two alternatives, really, well, two. Use fund balance or eliminate positions. Because we only get $50 per increase per student. That equated to $150,000. 50 times 3,000, $150,000. So when I go back to the committee and we talk about that committee, it's not perfect. It might not even be close for some of you or some of the people out there. But again, back to the hand that we were dealt, we have come back and we have met your expectation of what you put in front of us to deal with.
And I'd like to just say that as someone that sat in that committee, I'm very sensitive to what Ms. Justinger says, and in that we've asked much of the teachers, and we need to tread very carefully before we make choices that just casually take more from them. But as part of this committee, quite frankly, the board members, we sat quietly. We had a broad section of support staff and teachers who were very aggressive in asking the questions. And I'm not saying they were happy that they had to go from what they had to what they had now, but there was a sense of commitment to what we arrived at. And I think they had a really good sense of numbers. And then when we were able to explore the HRA possibility and to at least fund the deductibles and make sure that coverages were approximately close to what they had in the past, there was a commitment to this decision and a sense that this is appropriate to weather the storm right now, and there was not anger, there was resignation. So
I think that that's a critical word, John, resignation. They have no choice. I mean, they have no choice.
Yeah.
None of the employees have any choice. So all they can do is be the wonderful employees they are, give more, and continue on. But I think, I'm just going to say it, they don't have a choice. And they will bear the brunt once again. And that's too bad, because we sat here a month ago and we saw, again, employees who are retiring this year or next year. Again, taking a hit, bearing the brunt. And I guess it's just real important that we have to recognize that.
Absolutely.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
It is too bad.
It has to be done.
I just want, I hope the board and all the staff, and they have been fantastic, but there isn't anybody who sat on that committee that doesn't understand any of this and what this means. Everybody applies it to their personal situations and takes a look at their personal situations, and some feel better than others, and some of us feel really happy we're in the situation that we're in.
And I do think the committee as a whole really tried to look at keeping as much apples to apples as they could. And, I know it did help having at least the option of going with one or the other health traditions or Gunderson, and not having being pigeonholed into only one. So that was a good possibility anyway. But it was, and I think it might be important to look through the questions that were asked of the insurance companies, those questions we sent out in the questionnaire, so that you can see how they answered those and how that fits the needs of you in your health and what you need to have for your family's health.
Is there any more information that we can provide the board as to, Jerry asked the question, is there any information, you got a ton of handouts there. I'll make sure that the questions are in there. Is there any other information that we need to provide you with as you go through and make this choice?
I think that it was very comprehensive, and I thank you for going through that with the search for this. And to look at the WEA product 5 or 10 years ago and look at it today, I think that the satisfaction from the patient side is going to be similar with both the Gunderson and the Mayo or the Health Traditions Plan. Those products now do compare very well with the WEA product today, not the one of 5 or 10 years ago. That product has had to modify itself significantly to weather the storm. So I think this is wonderful, and I really want to reiterate, I don't want to impugn the committee at all, or anyone who worked on this, because
We didn't take it there.
it's wonderful that we've got that
Not at
choice.
all.
And that we were able to encourage both Health Traditions and Gunderson to give us a price that matched each other to allow the employees to have choice. Fantastic. And we look closer, and Gunderson does spell it out the way that you say in their description, but it's the Health Traditions one that uses some very specific language, and I'd only caught the Health Traditions one. So that would be where we want to ask our question, to make sure that we're not getting a different
I can
answer
verify
from them.
that. I
Yep.
know it to be true, but I'll verify it.
And I'm sure it is, it's just to make sure that I've had health insurers go back and say, well, yeah, we might have said that to you, but in writing, here's what we have. We just want to make sure we've got that correct.
Well, and we've asked a ton of questions already. I've had specific people, or at least one individual, send me a letter and ask a specific question regarding their situation, try to answer the question, and what we will do once we make a decision here, we'll give phone numbers so that people can talk to, whether it's Gunderson Lutheran, Health Traditions, to make those phone calls as they're making the decision on what is going to be in their own personal best interest.
Do we know what our current distribution is between Gunderson and Health Traditions now? I mean, are we going to
I think
influx
it's
one of these
probably around
areas?
65, 35, maybe 70, 30 right now. And
So
part of
they-
that is because at one point in time, and again, some of you know better than I do, but we were on a Gunderson Lutheran only, and then within the last 2 or 3 years ago, they provided us with choice to go to either one. So we didn't have choice 3 years ago. Previous to that, I think we did have choice between the two, and then it narrowed to one. And now
We don't expect that there's going to be a large influx moving. It'll just be people pretty much staying with the carrier they have now.
I don't know. I
The
mean,
statement with that's based on the fact that neither one of these clinics can handle an influx right now of any substantial numbers. They're
the
both-
biggest thing that people are going to have to do is really start to educate themselves on what each insurance is offering them, and to make sure they're asking the questions. And part of what, whether you like it or not, we're being asked to be better consumers with our health insurance. And we need to take a more active role. And in the end, what they're hoping is that's going to ultimately start driving down the cost of insurance, one, by being a better consumer, and then by being an active participant in your health, by taking the biometric test, and by taking responsibility for your life choices. Not the choices we're dealt with, but our life choices that we have.
So Greg, you mentioned that you were going to send out the packets
Yes.
so that staff will have a chance to review things and think about it.
And I think that's the next big piece, that, staff has to be well educated on the changes that are going to be taking place. And I think, as Greg mentioned, the fact that before they make a decision about which carrier they choose to go with, they call and get answers to specific questions that they have based on their unique situation. Both companies are open to doing that so that people can make the best informed choice for them, and I think that's a real benefit for the staff too. But they're going to have to become very well educated on what the proposals mean.
Is this going to be on the reorganization?
We'd like to make a decision at the reorganization. Sorry, it's just all coming together.
It's going to be a busy
Monday.
Would there be any benefit to having an opportunity for those interested in going to the Gunderson Clinic and those going to the Health Traditions to have a meeting for the staff to...
We'll plan on doing all those things,
Yeah,
getting
just
them
to
information.
have a
We haven't
large
even
meeting.
started to the transition
Okay.
phase. We got to get through this phase to get to the transition phase. There will be more questions than we have answers for if you make the decision a week from tonight.
There will be meetings for the entire staff, and Gunderson and Health Tradition will both be there, along with probably the HR, the health reimbursement person will probably be there. I'll be there, Al will be there probably. So there's going to be plenty of people available. There'll even be time for one-on-ones if we need to. And like Greg said, we do have people lined up with both insurance companies. If you have questions about your specific instance before you make your decision, we've got a name and a phone number lined up, so that can all happen. so they can make a pretty informed decision. And I will get in writing the verification on the prescription benefits. So.
You send it to me and I'll...
Yeah, I'll get it to Greg. I'll have it tomorrow for him.
Yeah, but that was one of the keys we discussed at the committee too, was the education that would need to happen for the employees. It's just paramount, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill.
Okay.
You touched me.
Maybe we'll